This is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today we're talking about a few mistakes you might be doing on your dating apps. This is something that I have noticed with a couple of clients of mine that have dating apps, and they are actively seeking someone, and this is both males and females. This isn't just one or the other. And I kind of see that this is something that a lot of times, like, I'm going to give you kind of like my top 4 mistakes. So like I said, this is their top ones. There may be another video that I do later on of kind of like the not top ones that are kind of like just kind of keep in mind kind of things. But these are the ones that I will say are like the most important. I will say probably the number one mistake that I see with most people is, this is their number one. This is hiding your intentions. So a lot of times my clients are looking for a long-term relationship, or they're looking for someone to kind of like date long-term, that sort of thing. Like their intentions are like, I want to date somebody to eventually marry, maybe start a family, that sort of thing. Yet at the same time, when they are on the dating app, they're really not like setting those intentions. Like, I'm not, this is not just for sex. This is not just for anything else. Like, I don't need a date for prom or, whatever it is. It's like, I want someone like very serious about this. And so they kind of make it sound like, and this is where they're not clear. They're kind of like, well, I don't want to like scare you off with my intentions. So they'll be like, I'm just looking for something casual kind of thing, but they're really not. And that's where you kind of setting your intentions unclear. If you are looking for a long-term relationship, make sure you state that. Make sure that you let them know, I am not in this for a short-term relationship or one-nighter or whatever it is. I am in this for a long-term relationship. That really changes a lot, because a lot of times they'll kind of let you know, well, I'm just looking, for something short-term, or I just need blah, 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 that sort of thing. And so that kind of like helps you kind of weed out some of those people. So state that intention to begin with, no matter what it is. Like, if you're looking for something long-term, let them know you were looking for something for long-term. Because a lot of times they're kind of like, well, you're kind of like, I just want something casual. And they're like, well, I'm not sure what I want. And it's like, I'm sorry, both of y'all know why y'all are there. So make sure you plainly state that out. Like, I am here because I want this. I am looking for this. Whatever that is, make sure that you really state it really clear. Don't waste your time with relationships that don't meet your needs. So it's kind of like, that's part of these. Like, this is all tangled in there together. If you were looking for a long-term relationship and you realize the person that you're talking to is not into that, let them go. It's one of those, like, cut them free, like let them go. Because a lot of times what ends up happening is you get frustrated because you want something long term, and all they're looking for something is just for a period of time, like someone to date for a few months or whatever else, and then they're happy, and you're going like, I'm frustrated. Why is this? Because you did not state your requirements at the beginning of all of this. And that starts with your profile picture, with your profile online, and kind of like stating those intentions. Like, I am looking to find a long-term match, someone who's looking for a long-term, that's looking for a long-term relationship going into possibly into marriage at some point. That makes it a lot easier and makes it a lot more understandable to what's going on. If you are not stating your matches, then you're more likely, not that you will find a few people that will kind of like, oh yeah, I'm looking for long-term, and they're really not. I will tell you that's the majority of them are really looking for kind of like being unclear, and the more you talk to them, the more you're going to find out what they really, really desire out of this relationship. That's kind of like much clarity is required in that, and being truthful. This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a long-term relationship. Kind of my number 2 big mistakes is kind of people like, well, so superficially, like, see a really cute guy and they're like, yes. Or they'll see a really cute girl. Yes, 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 I really want this. But a lot of times they're kind of doing it on that superficial, like, she's really pretty, or he's really handsome, or cute, gorgeous, whatever you're looking for. But a lot of times, kind of really look into reading all of their profile, thinking about it. How do their interest combine with your interest? If they're like, I love fishing and you hate fishing, like they go fishing every weekend and you don't want to go fishing every weekend, there's a problem there. There's an incompatibility there. Even if they're cute, gorgeous, whatever it is, like you already have an incompatibility relationship going on. Make sure that their interests are the same as yours, or at least there's a lot of compatibility there. What are their values? That's your thing, kind of like interestingly, kind of like looking at that. Don't just look at the superficial, like, oh, they're cute, gorgeous, but it's like looking deeper into that relationship of kind of like, what are they talking about on their profile? What are they stating? And then really think about it. Don't look at the picture necessarily. It's kind of like, just think about the interest. Would you be interested in dating someone who, like, that looks like, or that has the same interest you do, or not? I will tell you, most married couples have interest similar, and then they have some that are completely opposite. This is okay. This is normal. But I will tell you, having more interests together, like the majority of like 50 or 55, 60% of your interests are similar, and then, like 50 or 45 or whatever else percent opposite, that's great. That's okay, because you always have to have time where you're kind of like, my husband likes to do this when I go do this. My husband likes to go play golf and I like to go shopping or whatever else. So it's okay to have different interests, but you want to have the majority of them similar. It makes it easier. So make sure that before you're swiping and like, yes, I'm interested, or winking or whatever it is, that you realize like, how much do we have in common? What is really important there? My number 3 are, this is where kind of like that sensitive side comes up in us, is kind of like, don't ignore the red flags. A lot of times, people are so interested in like finding a match or finding someone who has similar interests that they do, that they're not really paying attention to their instincts or paying attention to the warning signs, those red flags that are coming up. It's really important. When you are using dating apps, make sure you pay attention to those red flags more than anything else, because a lot of times it's not like you have friends in common, so you can go talk to your friends or kind of get some insight that way. So kind of what you're doing is kind of like reading their profile and kind of going on that. So you don't really necessarily have people in common or that sort of thing. So it's kind of like, how do we go here? So this is the important part. So trust your instincts. When you are looking at their profile, how does it make you feel? Like, yes, we're kind of compatible. No, we're not really compatible. Don't look at the picture or anything else, or how desperate you are to have a relationship. Really think about like, what is this? How is this making me feel? Red flags come in many different forms, and it really depends on the person. Sometimes it can be people that are kind of disrespectful to other people. It's kind of like maybe they put other women down, other men down, or whatever else. Sometimes it can be like they're not being truthful about things. So kind of like gauging that on your instincts, kind of like you're clairsensitive, like, does this feel like he's being truthful or she's being truthful about this? Kind of like that gut. Let your gut really lead you in this area, not your heart, not your head. What does your gut have to say? That's really the important part. And a lot of times I will say, when you trust your gut and kind of like, this doesn't feel right, and you walk away, you've walked away from a really bad situation, or a potentially bad situation, before it gets too far in there. This is really one of the things that I always tell people, like, make sure that when you are listening to, like, talking to them on the phone or whatever else, asking about who they've dated in the past or all that information, are they blaming everything on someone else? My ex did this, 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 and this, and this wrong. If they're blaming a majority of things going wrong on their ex, it's a red flag. Run. Because a lot of times those end up being very narcissistic people, and a lot of times you're just kind of more listening to the story and trying to gauge what they're telling you, but really listen to it. If someone is really blaming their ex for them cheating, does that make sense? Or it's all their fault, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. If they're blaming the other person the majority of the time, even like 70, 80, 90%, walk away. It's not a good relationship. I often tell people kind of when you first meet someone, like have a few stories that you tell each person, and they don't have to be like your deepest, darkest secret or whatever else. Like if they ask you, like, what's your biggest secret in the world? I wouldn't tell someone I barely know. Usually that's going to end up being something that they can use against you later on. Well, you've made mistakes in the past because you did this, or you had a one-night stand, or whatever it is. And so they're going to kind of throw that back at you. So have a few stories that are kind of like middle of the road, not necessarily great, not necessarily anything else, that you're kind of telling them so they can get a judge of who you are. But at the same time, do they ever bring that up later on as you get to know them over the first couple of dates or so? That helps you kind of judge where they're coming from, because a lot of times narcissistic people will end up getting you into a place where you feel really, really comfortable, and then all of a sudden what they'll end up doing is saying, you know, well, tell me your deepest, darkest secret, or tell me about this, or tell me about that, or how was your relationship with your parents? And it's one of those, to me, that's something that I might say on like the 7th or 8th or 10th date, and maybe not on the 1st or 2nd. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's not that you're lying to them. Like, let me just postpone that until later on, until I get to know you a little bit better, to make sure that you're someone who's trustworthy with all of this information about me. And kind of my last mistake that a lot of people do is they are really inflexible with what's going on. So if someone you think is like headed for like being that like being overly selective, like, you know, I have to date, I've heard this from many women, like, I have to date someone and he has to be over 6 foot tall, and he can't be this, and he has to be this, and he has to make so much money. Be flexible with that. A lot of times when you first start dating someone, it's one of those, like, they have like these really high, like, he has to be 6 foot tall or higher, he has to be this, he has to be a bodybuilder, all those kind of things. And a lot of things is they may not have been in that like working out lately, but they normally do. So it's kind of just rejecting someone just on superficial criteria can be something that's kind of like, especially I had a client a couple of years ago, and she was dating someone from an app, and she was like, well, he doesn't make enough money, or he doesn't make as much as I do. And I said, I understand, but he also just changed, like a year ago, he just changed industries. And she was kind of like, well, he doesn't make enough money, and so if we were to have kids, you know, he would be like, I would be the one who would be providing the most of the income. And I was like, give him some time. And she was just like, no, I'm ready to cut him out. And it's one of those, he changed industries, and of course started out at a much lower income and then started pulling back up. But it took a little bit of time in the industry before he started making better and better money. And then she was like, I met him 5 years later and he's making all this money and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I told you, you know what I'm saying? Like, just because he changed, but she was just like, inflexible. So when you're talking to someone and getting to know them, getting values of like, what is their personality, how compatible are you, being flexible with like, what are their relationship goals, what are their goals for their future, what are the goals for their family, even if it's like mom and dad and brother and sister, whatever else, like, what are your goals for your family, like, what do you want to do as a family? That gives you an insight of like who they are and what's important to them, because they're telling you right off the bat, like, these are the important things to me. I want to like eventually make enough money to take my family on a European vacation for 3 months. That's like a big goal. That's a lot of money. So it's like, those are some big goals that they have, and doesn't mean that they're not going to do it. Just means it may take a little bit longer. So really listen to those inflexibilities of like, that has to be this perfect, this absolutely perfect person. And because a lot of times those expectations may be a little bit unrealistic, and you can still find a great person to be a great mate and a great partner for life without bringing a lot of those chaotic energies into you. So let's do some angel cards. Like I said, I will be doing another video on this. I already have some new ideas, like, if you have any questions about these, make sure that you post them beneath on commenting, liking, and subscribing to my channel. I will be doing another video on this. So this one is the 10th house, and this is the authority. You have the authority in all of this when you have, and almost in every category, when you see the red flags, take off. You have the authority to walk away when you're in a brand new relationship, like, I'm not doing this. You have the authority when you're talking about your intentions and their intentions. If you feel like they have hidden intentions, make sure that you state those out, like, this doesn't feel right, this doesn't, and walk away before anything else. You have the authority when you're looking at someone of kind of like, are you going to swipe to the right or whatever it is, the left, swiping one way or the other, and kind of like, are you swiping too quickly, or are you doing it superficially without looking at everything else that's going on, and kind of bringing on that clairsensitive, or your intentions, your abilities, your intuition. Are you doing that? And then make sure that you're flexible when you are looking at someone. Make sure you're flexible. It doesn't have to be the 1,000% perfect person making $1 bazillion a year. I hear that somebody, I want them to be wealthy. Well, you have to match that wealth. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to bring something to the table. You can't just expect someone else to provide everything that you require for your relationship without bringing anything to the table. This one is Jupiter, and this is abundance. We all, like I said, we all want someone who makes really good money and has a great hold on life. But I guarantee you, there are people that are making transitions in their life that will be very abundant, because now they're changing from something they're kind of like to something like, I love this, which is going to change how they make money and where they make money. Because when you love what you do, you're going to draw it into you. The next one, this is Chiron, and this is healing. If you keep kind of looking at the superficial person, that sort of thing, you're going to get superficial people that have superficial ideas, that only want that perfect person as well, and you're not really getting down to the meat of the relationship. The outside person is not even a third of what you should be worried about or concerned about. It's the deep sound, their heart, their mind, their soul. That's the part that's really going to be what you fall in love with, and that's the thing that you keep falling back in love with in long-term relationships. The next one, the 8th house, the mystery. Keep some mystery to yourself. Like I said, when people ask you, like, what is your deepest, darkest secret, or what is the thing that you would not want no one else to know, people like that, you want to keep that a mystery, and you may make up like a story that's kind of like, maybe it's not anywhere out there, and kind of like, okay, this is my deepest, darkest secret, and are they using that against you in some way, shape, or form? Because a lot of times, like I said, when people use this, it's because they're doing that as kind of like, I want you to be aware of you know what I'm saying, like, what are your deepest, darkest secrets, so I can use that against you in some way, shape, or form, which is not good. 6th house, sustainability. This is what we're looking for in relationships. We want a relationship that's going to sustain, that's going to last, not just a few months or a few weeks or anything else. We want a relationship that is going to last years, a long-term dating relationship that's going to move into a great marriage and moving on and forward. That is what we're really looking for. That is what 99.9% of people tell me that they're really, really looking for in a relationship, and that is most important. Looking for that long-term relationship that can move into a marriage and kids and whatever else you want, vacations or whatever else. That is one of the most important things that you can really do, and I think it's one of the most important ones. The last card, this is one that was jumping literally off the deck. This is Libra, and this is about the balance. When you start dating someone, make sure that there's a balance in your life. That so many times, like, people start dating and like they just totally focus in, and they're like blinders on, like, I'm only thinking about this one person. What are they doing? What are they thinking? Da, 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 da. Still go out with your friends. Still go out with your guy friends, your girlfriends, whatever it is. Do things with your family, and it's okay to let them meet your family slowly or meet your friends slowly. It makes it a little bit easier. But if you're just kind of like, as soon as you enter a relationship, you're like completely about them, it's one of those, it's hard for them to deal with it, because it's like all of a sudden, like 5 seconds ago I didn't have a boyfriend or girlfriend, and now like they want to know everything about me. This is something that's really important to kind of really understand where things are going in the relationship and keeping that balance, not only for you, but for them as well. I thank you so much for joining me today, and I know that we'll be talking again soon.